My little sister was only 7 years old when she was killed. We found her laying in a ditch, dead. It was late at night and the rain was pouring down, washing the blood from her pale white skin. Her throat had been cut, and her eyes were still open, and she stared blankly at the sky as the rain beat down on her. The police never found out who killed her. They buried her in the graveyard not far from our house. At the funeral, my father held me tightly against his chest. Tears were streaming down my cheeks. My mother couldn't come. She was too sick. Back then, we all lived together. There were a lot of us. My mother and father, my aunt and uncle, my 3 cousins, my sister and I. Not long after the funeral, my sister came back. I saw her outside my window at night, scratching at the glass. Her eyes were just hollow sockets. Her cheeks were sunken and her hair was matted with dirt. Her thin lips were drawn back from her teeth in a sickly grin. Every night she just stood there in the rain, clawing at the window, silently begging to be let in. Eventually, I couldn't take it anymore. I opened the window and she crawled inside. She stank of the grave. She was cold to the touch, deathly cold. She didn't speak. She never said a word. She just curled up in the corner and watched me as I slept. When I woke up in the morning, she would be gone. All that was left were muddy tracks on the bedroom floor. One night she seemed to be telling me something, or at least trying to. She kept pointing to the picture of my uncle. She grabbed my arm and her fingers felt like ice. I couldn't understand what she was trying to say. Then all at once a chill ran down my spine. I realized my uncle was somehow involved in her death. I began to grow very frightened of him. After that, things seemed to fall in place. I understood why my sister kept coming back. She wanted revenge. She wanted my uncle to pay for what he had done. One rainy day, my uncle took me for a walk along the cliffs. He stopped at the edge and gazed out over the sea. The grass was wet and slippery. The moment he turned his back, I knew this was my chance. I gathered all my strength and kicked him in the back. I still remember the expression on his face as he twisted and turned, desperately trying to regain his balance. It was no use. He toppled over the side. I crawled up to the edge and peered over. His body lay on the jagged rocks below. His arms and legs twisted at an odd angle. His skull was smashed and his neck was broken. Bright red blood trickled down on the stones. When the police came, I pretended to cry. I told them he slipped and they had no reason to doubt me. After all, I was just a child. That night, my parents wanted me to sleep in their room. I told them I wanted to be alone. My father was torn apart by his brother's death. I didn't have the heart to tell him the truth. I waited for my sister, but she didn't come. Before I went to sleep, I left the window open. In the middle of the night, I was woken by the sound of screaming. My sister was kneeling on the floor of the bedroom. She was writhing in pain and her fingernails were scratching at her face. She was a mess. Her face was bloody and her skin was hanging off. "What have you done?" she screamed at me over and over again. I was so scared I couldn't move. As I watched, she screamed and sobbed and tore her own flesh off with bloody fingers. Then I must have blacked out. When I woke up, she was gone. I never understood the horrible thing I had done to my little sister until we went to the graveyard for my uncle's funeral. They buried my uncle in the same grave as her. My sister never came back. A few years ago, there was a young man named Brian who went to university. He didn't have enough money to live in the campus accommodation, so he had to rent an apartment on his own in the city. After he'd been living there alone for a while, he began to notice some strange things happening. Often when he came back from college, the curtains in his bedroom would be drawn, when he distinctly remembered having left them open when he had left that morning. At other times, some of his belongings seemed to have been moved and other possessions were nowhere to be found. These strange occurrences started to creep Brian out, so the young man decided to talk to his friends, Trisha and Alex, about the situation. They met him at a local diner, and over coffee he told them all about the strange things he had noticed. "Maybe I'm just being paranoid," said Brian, "but I just get this sneaking suspicion that someone is breaking into my apartment during the day while I'm at university And what?" interrupted Alex. "Rearranging your curtains and moving your stuff around? Who in their right mind would bother doing that?" "It sounds crazy, but I think you might have a stalker," said Trisha. "It's a possibility. If it's true, I think the best thing to do is contact the police." "What can the police do?" asked Alex. "They're not going to spend their time keeping your apartment under surveillance. Besides, there's no damage to any of your things. There's no sign of a break-in. In short, there's no evidence." "So what options then?" pleaded Brian. "I just can't do anything." "I know how you can put your mind at ease," said Trisha. "It's easy. Just get a video camera, set it up in your bedroom, and leave it running when you go to school. If you really do have a stalker, you can show the tape to the police as evidence." "You know, that's a great idea," said Brian. "And if you're reading paranoid and crazy, you can show the tape to your psychiatrist," joked Alex. That night, Brian borrowed Trisha's video camera and brought it home. The very next morning, he hid it discreetly under some folders on his desk. Before he went to school, he pressed the record button and left it running. During the day, while he sat taking notes and lectures, the young man forgot all about the video camera. It was not until he arrived home and went into his bedroom that he remembered his plan. Taking the video camera out from its hiding place, he pressed the stop button. Then he took out his mobile phone and called his friend. "Hey Trisha," he said, "I just got home. I'm going to watch the video." "Cool," said Trisha. "Don't hang up. Tell me if you see anything." He pressed play and watched the recording on the video's camera. He saw himself leaving for school in the morning and closing the bedroom door. Then there was nothing. He pressed fast forward and scanned through the video. The room was empty. "Still nothing," he said. "I can wait," replied Trisha. "Anyways, there's nothing worth watching on TV at the moment." "Oh my God!" cried Brian as he pressed play on the camera. What? Trisha begged excitedly. "The door's opening," said Brian. "It's a woman." "What's she doing?" asked Trisha. "Just standing there, closing the door, walking around." "Oh my God, so weird. What does she look like?" "Can't see her face. Long black stringy hair, tattered dress." "Well, do you know her?" "No, I don't recognize her at all. She's carrying a knife, a big kitchen knife. She's going through my trash. Now she's picking up my clothes and sniffing them. Ugh, gross. What's wrong with her?" "She's going over to the closet. She just got into the closet." "Fast forward and see if she does anything else." He scanned through the video for a while, but the room was empty. "You know what this means?" said Brian. "I have the evidence now. I can go to the police and they'll take me seriously." "I know," said Trisha. "They'll have to. Alex is totally going to freak out when he sees this." "No doubt. He didn't believe you, but I did." "I know you're a good friend." "Oh my God." What? Brian pressed play again. "The door's opening, and it's opening again," said Brian. "Who is it?" asked Trisha. "Oh, it's okay," said Brian. "It's just me coming home from school." He watched himself on the screen, shutting off the camera. Let's go to the police now, said Trisha. I'll go with you. We can show them the tape. Okay, I'll meet you at the diner in 15 minutes, said Brian as he grabbed the video camera. Okay, wait a minute, said Trisha. You said she got into the closet. Did she ever leave? Brian, did she ever get out of the closet? A chill ran down Brian's spine. Behind him he heard the closet creak open. Brian, get out of there, screamed Trisha. But it was too late. The phone went dead. When she tried to call him again, there was no answer. Later that evening, the police found the body of the 18-year-old college student lying in a pool of blood. He'd been stabbed 21 times. The video camera was clutched in his cold, dead hands. When the police examined the camera, they discovered that the memory card was missing. No trace of the woman was ever found. Right now, she could be hiding in your closet.
If you like what you heard, please like, subscribe, and share with your friends. If you'd like to, you can follow me at Twitter. The handle is @FuzzyPantaloons, and I'll see you all next time.